Howdy Commanders, Echo here. Today we got our first installment of a patch notes video. This one for the October 2020 Steel Redeemer and Rust and Rumble Halloween event campaign and update cycle. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by just reading you the patch notes top to bottom. Wargaming puts a lot of time, energy, and effort into making these relatively understandable for a whole host of languages, so I encourage you to read them on your own, top to bottom, several times in fact, because sometimes the details in there need to be gone over a few times. Game in the background is a pretty nice Synop game. Here on Sea of Fortune, I'm divvied up with Shadow in the Laterrable. Check this one out, there's a couple great little moments in it. We are punching up to 7, spawn at Bravo. So keep your eye on this in the background. I'm basically not going to do any commentary on it after this. So, the way I'm going to do patch note videos is to go through them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So these aren't going to be in order of the patch notes as they were presented. I'm going to be bouncing around, jumping up and down throughout the blog post and putting things into those three categories, the good, the bad, the ugly. So without further ado, we're going to get into the good. Now I will make one small caveat or note, I guess, that though I am a pretty salty person, particularly when it comes to this game a lot of times, my list of good for this patch notes is longer than my list of bad and ugly combined. So, overall, a pretty decent set of update patch notes, but the weight of the bad and the weight of the ugly is pretty heavy. A lot of the good is kind of like, that's good, but the weight of any one good is not terribly heavy. So, take that for what you will. Now let's actually get into it. Number one on my good list is that we are getting a Destroyer campaign. Yes, awesome. Great to see. We've only had 2 Destroyer campaigns ever. And one of them was all the way back last November, 11 months ago, for a Tier 4. And, well, we all know what the other one is all about. Potato City with the Udachi. You see a Udachi on your team, watch out. It's probably Potato. So, I'm happy to see that it's going to be an upper tier destroyer for the US, and they're getting a little different flavor of a destroyer from what they normally have. This one appears to be a little bit torpedo-centric. Check out my Venom teased video from earlier this week for my thoughts on that in particular. But it's Tier 6. Would have liked to see Tier 7 perhaps, but keep in mind that Tier 6 is your money-making tier for premiums, so that's also pretty nice. People that want to have a campaign reward ship that's relatively affordable, given the doubloons cost, compared to buying a Tier 6 premium destroyer out of the store for over 10,000 doubloons. This will be a great value for people and a great way to use a destroyer to grind out silver and credits and have a lot of fun in a different flavor of an American destroyer from what we're used to. Good on you guys, Wargaming, for giving us the Venom. Tying into this, another good thing about the campaign is that we've got hard mode back. We got hard mode for the first time in Udachi. Well, I mean, some of the campaigns from early in the game's life cycle just had hard mode built in. But as a unique feature, shall we say, a distinct set of challenges that allow you to unlock the campaign reward ship early, we got those first in Udachi. We're getting them back again. And I also like to see that these can be now done with the legendary tier ships. It appears that Wargaming is signaling to us that eventually we'll be able to do things like weekly campaigns, daily missions, and all components of the Havocs with legendary. It seems to be that they're testing out the waters with doing the hard modes available with the legendary ships. Keep in mind there is a caveat in there that there is one hard mode challenge involving torpedoes. None of the legendary tier ships that we have so far have torpedoes, so obviously that one will not be doable with legendary ship, but it sounds like all the rest of them will be. And I also appreciate that the hard mode challenges are going to be available from the get-go. Now I don't know if this means that all of them for the entire campaign will be doable right out of the gate on Monday, or if just each week, each Monday of the campaign, you'll get that Monday's hard mode available right out of the gate. So potentially in your first game Monday morning, you could finish off the hard mode for that week. Not sure how that's going to work, but either way, Hard modes are available from the get-go, and you can finish them before finishing the rest of your Havocs. If you guys remember from the Udachi campaign, you had to finish all the rest of the Havoc missions before it would unlock the hard mode challenge. And that made it a little difficult because sometimes you'd get that 140,000 damage or that Kraken, but it wouldn't be available, and then it was just a waste. You had to do it again. Another thing under the good column today is the permanent skin is going to be droppable in those Halloween crates for the Z-23. Always great to get permanent skins, especially for high tier ships and especially destroyers. Love to see that. Z-23 was my first tier 7 ship in the game. I love that ship quite a bit. Happy to see a permanent skin coming into the game for a Tech Tree tier 7. We're getting 3 new commanders, and all of them are destroyers. Can you guys tell that I am pumped about this campaign and this event cycle for destroyer content? We're getting 3 new commanders, all Halloween event commanders, and they're all going to be destroyer commanders. So this is pretty exciting. Love to see that. More DD commanders is always good. Using those inspirations on your other ship lines is going to be great. Hopefully they're balanced. Hopefully they're usable. We're going to have to wait to see on Monday what they actually look like, but always exciting to see destroyer commanders coming into the game. Another thing under the good column as it relates to destroyers, we're getting Soviet destroyer improvements. I've literally been saying this since they were in early access and the Soviet cruiser line came out and we could finally see the stats on the Soviet DDs. They needed more main battery range. The Soviet DDs are basically cruisers without citadels, especially tiers 2 through 6. Tashkent is a little bit different, obviously, once you get the upgrades. But those Soviet DDs that can't stealth torp basically operate like long-range gunnery support. I've said this in a couple other videos recently. But they needed the main battery range. Oh yeah, it was when I was talking about Rumble, the Transformers commander. They've needed main battery range badly, and it looks like they're getting it roughly around 10%. I think it's a slight tweak here and there down to the, meter plus or minus, but it's roughly around 10% buff. And that's before you put the range module upgrade on there, which works as a percentage, so that's going to give you an even better buff to that main battery range than it did before. Looking at some of these ships, they're going to have main battery range in the 12 kilometer plus range, especially when you start stacking on triple chevron battle booster flags, and if you slot in some of the skills from some of these guys, Trubetskoy or Gurin give you boosts to range. And now that we've got Rumble in the game, you could either use Rumble or slot him in as an inspiration. We're going to be pushing over 12, possibly even close to 13 kilometers main battery range on these Soviet destroyers, which is exactly what I've been saying they've been needing since they were in early access. They need to have that very short range cruiser, extremely long range destroyer. They need to be able to outrange every other destroyer because that's their role. They've also going to get better rudder shift to help them kite at long range, dodge tank at long range. Again, something I said that they've been needing since early access. Happy to see they got it finally. That's great to see. A couple other small improvements as it comes to the Soviet destroyers. One more of note is that the Tashkent torps, if you're running contact is imminent in slot 1 on any of your commanders, are now going to do 64 knots, and there's no other change to their stats. So those Tashkent torps were already pretty solid. Now they're going to be some of the best at the tier when you include all the various stats, the fact that you can stealth torp with them, etc. So watch out for those Tashkent torps. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more Tashkents in tier 7 battles going forward. Alidad for Halloween event commander Henry J. Hyde is getting a little bit of buff, or rather a nerf reduction. So that's pretty exciting to see. I'll still probably run gyrating drill bits on Hyde, but oh, check this exchange out. Just the rear guns on this Helena as he's kiting away. Wait. Oh boy. Bravo, baby! So it's going to be great to see that Alidad gets a slight nerf reduction. Probably still use gyrating drill bits as I just mentioned, but we'll probably play around with Alidad at least, and especially if you stack Alidad with a Von Essen inspiration, that could really make your German battleship AP much more functional. We're getting the ability to ping the strategic map. I know Wargaming calls it the tactical map, but that's like from the military perspective, that would be your strategic map. But anyway, the ability to ping the strat map is coming. It looks like you're going to have to pull up the strat map, and then you'll be able to like move your cursor around it to ping it. That'll be great. And then it will probably pop up on your friendlies' mini-maps as well. So that'll be great to see. Hopefully we can use that to better alert people, ask for help, you know, say like, hey, I think the DD is over here, etc. So that'll add quite a bit of new dynamic to our ability to communicate with randoms. There's going to be a code here. I'll flash it up on the screen. There's a code that's going to be available for 12 Regina Marina camouflages and 1 day of premium. That 12 number is pretty critical because you can use that since they are event camos. You can use those 12 as a base coat and then further upgrade that base coat permanent camo. So that's kind of nice, you know, gives everybody an option to slather on a Regina Marina. I think it's kind of sharp looking on quite a few ships. So that's pretty nice. A code for basically a free base coat and a day of premium. Thanks, Wargaming. The Gisano is getting a rear turret angle fixed. It had a goofy firing angle on one of its sides. That's getting fixed. Always nice to see them addressing bugs. And the Halloween event that's coming for the end of October during the week of Halloween is going to have 4 teams of 3. I've been saying we need different modes other than just 9-on-9 or 7-on-7 for ranked for ages. It was really fun. Ducks was a breath of fresh air. It was 1v1v1v1 free-for-all. That was great. Now we're getting 4 teams of 3. I've been saying this from the get-go. This time it's just DDs. It would also be cool if this is kind of the pilot to see, okay, maybe we can do something like 4 teams of 3. They all have to be in divisions, or 4 teams of 3, 1 DD, 1 cruiser, 1 battleship on every team type of thing. Hopefully they can use this Halloween event as sort of a pilot program to test out some of these alternate modes, alternate team compositions. You know, we could have 18 people in a game. We could have 3 teams of 6. You can make totally different maps for this. You can change how spawns work, change how caps work, and it would be a breath of fresh air to the game. That pretty much wraps up my good here as we wrap up this Synop game. We're going to transition to kind of my thoughts on the bad from this patch notes update cycle now. And for your viewing pleasure in the background while we do that, we've got a solo game in the Marblehead on Archipelago Domination mode. Bit of a ripper this one is, so keep an eye on it in the background. Pretty well demonstrates what the ship is capable of. So moving into the bad from this patch note, the first one at the top of my list is that there is no ability to just outright buy these new Halloween commanders straight out of the store. Know what we're getting, guaranteed, and just spend some doubloons and get them. It's only available through gambling. Pull the lever on the slot machine, oh, I didn't get it. Pull the lever on the slot machine, oh, I didn't get it. It's a bit disappointing to see that it's a gambling-only mechanic to be able to get these 3 new Halloween event commanders. The next item on my bad list is that they're changing the ships in the big crate. I know spreadsheets probably says like, oh, enough players have the Eagle, the Boise, and the Mutsu out of the big crates. Well, we got a time to switch them, but the ship selection for these big crate ships is garbage. Graf Spee? Really? Dunkirk? Really? Kid? Really? Changing it to the Kid at the time where we're getting a Tier 6 premium US destroyer? I understand they're different flavors. Kid's very gunboat, while Benham appears to be very torpedo boat focused. I understand that, but still, it's a Tier 6 premium American destroyer. Why are we getting those in the big crates in the same campaign as the campaign reward? I don't understand. It's just a little upsetting that they're changing the ships. Why not either change them every update cycle, or like leave the 3 from prior and then also include these new 3, or maybe just like turn it into a voucher system where you pull the slot machine lever on the big crate and then you say, oh, you got a ship. Here is your list. Please select. Or here's a voucher to use in the store. It's good for these ships. Something like that, so we can actually pick the Eagle that some of us might actually want, that we can't even actually buy in the store. Anyway, I just think it's nonsense to be changing the big crate ships to 3 of some of the worst premiums in the game, honestly. Anyway, moving on to probably the biggest item on my bad list, and that is, for the second update in a row, there is no new Bureau project. I'm going to be wrapping up all of the Bureau projects during the first week of this update. I personally know several people who have been done with all of the Bureau projects for several weeks, and they didn't spend any gold to boost, and they were missing the odd commander patron here and there, the odd fleet ship, or the odd daily ship here and there. If you were somebody that had all of the patrons, who had all of the fleet ships, who had all of the daily ships, and who spent gold to boost through this stuff, you have been done with all three of the big major ships. You've been done with Red, White, and Blue and got the California. You finished Birthday really quickly. And you've been sitting with no Bureau projects for weeks now. And for the second update in a row, we're not getting at least one Bureau project. Now, to be fair, they are releasing an event notice type of descriptor blog post about the Halloween event and how that will work, and probably some of the rewards. So I guess in that they could announce some sort of short Bureau project as well. But at least in the main campaign patch notes, there is no mention of a new Bureau project. No inclusion of it anywhere. The word Bureau doesn't come up at all, and that's very disappointing. People have been buying premium time so that they can run 2 projects. There's not even a single project for them to run. What the heck, Wargaming? You introduced this mechanic and now you're not gonna, like, run support for it? I just don't understand. It's very disappointing to not see at least something. Like, give us, I don't know, a lower tier ship, or something akin to Birthday, but tying it into the Halloween theme, where we get more of the event currency, maybe a couple more of the Halloween crates, something like that. Maybe chances at the commanders, maybe one of the commanders guaranteed. It's just very disappointing to see that they introduce this Bureau and then they don't add new content to it for 2 update cycles in a row, when some people had finished up all of their Bureau projects early this campaign, even as early as last campaign, late in the last campaign. For Odin, it's kind of ridiculous that this is happening and that there's no further support for the Bureau, and they're not introducing new projects. I liked the Birthday one. I liked the Red, White, and Blue one. Those are cool ideas. They don't always have to be legendary ships. They can be things that are just like other additional rewards, like POs, insignias, commendations, crates, etc., like Birthday. Or give us a lower tier ship. Something, a tier 3, for example, because there's no way for a free-to-play player to get a tier 3 ship right now. They can get 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, but they can't get a tier 3 free to play in the game at this moment. So it'd be nice to see a tier 3 Bureau project, Wargaming. Something that could be done in like a 3 to 5 week cycle, depending on how many patrons and fleet ships you've got. That'd be very nice to see. It's very disappointing to not see any Bureaus for this update. I'm not too keen on the fact that the Halloween event is competitive. It was very cool last year when the Halloween event was a co-op thing, where you're working together against the computer, and it's not just like your standard AI 9v9 flavor. It was a unique event where you're working together cooperatively. That was very nice. Something that's competitive with randoms for specific rewards, it just feels too much like ranked to me. As I mentioned, it is cool that it's 4 teams of 3, but just not super keen on the fact that it's competitive for rewards that will likely only be available through this thing, and it's with randoms. Just not super great to see that. The fact that there isn't guaranteed event currency coming through the campaign is also a bit disappointing. Yes, each of the Halloween crates is dropping 250 each, but that's only 1,250 total. We'll have to see what's available in the Admiralty store. But not super excited about the fact that you're not, at some of those various stages, it's not going to be like 100 currency, 250 currency, like we've gotten in many of the other updates before. The Royal Navy destroyers that can equip it are losing propulsion module? What? This doesn't make any sense. Are they baking it in? No mention of that, like it has on the cruisers, where it's just like a baked-in propulsion module. It doesn't say that anywhere in the patch notes. I find it unlikely that they would do that. They have it built in for the cruisers, and that's why the Royal Navy cruisers can't equip propulsion module because it's just kind of baked in. So the fact that you're just losing the ability to equip propulsion module, I mean, they have the multi-use smokes. They want to be able to sit in their smoke and then get out of there quickly. They're losing propulsion module. It's going to totally change the playstyle of the Jervis, Icarus, and Lightning. Now, to be fair, I don't run propulsion module on Lightning, and that's the one I care the most about. But it's still kind of disappointing to see that they're just losing a very useful module for the playstyle of those ships for what I can see is no reason. Stack that with the fact that the way they're getting rid of them is they're just getting credited to your account and going into your inventory to equip onto other ships. But I'd rather have the silver, because now on these ships, if I had the propulsion module equipped, which I do on Jervis and Icarus, I just am out the 400,000 credits, and now I've got to spend 400,000 more per ship to re-equip steering gears. That doesn't make any sense. Why not give me the 400,000 back so that I can replace the module? That seems to make more sense to me. This seems a bit like a Russian refund to me, for those of you that are familiar with Klaus Kellerman. Sounds like a little bit of a Russian refund here. Now, if you had propulsion on all three of those ships, and you want to re-equip them with steering gears to make them even mildly competitive and have something in slot 2, you've got to spend 1.2 million credits. That's a lot of credits. That's like 3 to 5 Tier 6 premium games, depending on what you're running for boosters. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's a decent amount of credits. That's slot 1 and 2 modules for a whole host of ships. It's ridiculous. That's almost a slot 3 module. That's a B hull on some of the, mid-tier ships, etc. This is ridiculous that there's no way to get that silver back. Why not a selectable thing? Say like, hey, would you like these credited to your account so you can use the propulsion modules on other ships? Or would you like the 400,000 silver back? I think it's ridiculous the way that they're, A, even taking these off of those boats, and B, if they are going to take them off, the way that they're dealing with that on your account. And lastly, under the bad, is that in these Halloween crates that are available through the campaign, there's a potential to pull 2 permanent camos. Granted, they're Halloween themed, but they're for premium ships. Who cares about alternate permanent skins for premium ships? Premium ships already come with permanent camos. That's half the reason to play premium ships, because you get the Type 4 style 4.5% camo stuck on the ship forever, and you don't have to burn your consumables once. It would have been great to see permanent skins for tech tree ships like we're getting on the Z-23. That's great, but why are we getting it for Benham and Ognavoy? Those ships are premium. They already have permanent skins. Last Halloween they had permanent skins for tech tree ships, St. Louis and Wakatake if I'm not mistaken. So why not do it again? Give it to tech tree ships. That makes more sense. Permanent camos, alternate permanent camos for premium ships doesn't make any sense, and it's very disappointing. Got robbed there a little bit ago on the kill on the Königsberg. That probably won't come into play for later on in this game, I bet. So anyway, now let's move into the ugly. And this is a very short list, but it's a very heavy list. This campaign for the Benham is only 80 stages. It's a 4-week campaign. It's 2,500 gold down, which is kind of the standard. Bit disappointing to see it cost 2,500 gold for a tier 6 ship. But we only get 750 gold back. This is, stage for stage, the most expensive campaign we've ever had, when you factor the gold you have to pay and the gold you get back. That is extremely disappointing. And there's only 1,250 event currency, as I mentioned. And some of that event currency, you can use it to upgrade your Halloween event ships. Well, you're going to feel obligated to use it to upgrade those Halloween event ships for the event so that you can be competitive, so that you can get the rewards. We'll have to see what else is offered in the Admiralty store. But again, that 1,250 you might want to use that towards the Ognivoy. So we got a limited amount of event currency spread way too thin across a whole host of other things. Not our typical Admiralty store, I would guess. And this is the most expensive doubloons cost for a campaign per stage ever. And they're probably justifying this with like, oh, you get X number of big crates and X number of Halloween crates and the rewards in the big crates. Oh, you can get a permanent skin for a campaign ship. Great, it already had one. And on top of that, it's a tier 6 campaign ship, not a tier 7. This is extremely disappointing, and it feels like a bit disrespectful to the player base to ask us to put 2,500 gold down, only give us 750 back, and not give an appropriate amount of rewards to reflect that. Some big crates where you might pull some garbage premiums, some Halloween crates where you might pull some permanent skins for a premium ship, a lackluster amount of event currency that is going to be spread way too thin. This is just not acceptable. Way too many of the rewards are things like camouflages and flags and green XP, blue XP, silver. Not enough POs, not enough insignia, not enough blue commendations to justify 2,500 down with only 750 gold back. And the other part of the ugly is that in the patch notes, there's no information about the smoke. A whole host of very detailed information about the stats changes that are being implemented on the Soviet destroyers, but no information about the Italian smokescreen consumable changes. Interesting. Some broad overview blurbs, but no finite details about how they're going to work, how long they last, how long the bloom time is, how long the reload is, etc. So that's a bit of a red flag to me. I don't know if that really goes under ugly. It doesn't really fit with bad per se, and it's definitely not good. Especially when they say, oh, here's all the very detailed changes to the Soviet destroyers. Here's a little generic word salad about how we're changing the Italian smokes. No details for you. Awesome. Here, quick, buried in and amongst a bunch of flowery language for the Amalfi. Excellent. Thanks, Wargaming. Well, anyway, guys, this has been my first edition of the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly patch notes for the Steel Redeemer and Rust and Rumble Halloween event. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What are some of your good, bad, and the ugly from the patch notes? Well, thanks an awful lot for listening, everyone. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, stay salty, Commanders.